We are kicking off today with WWE Smackdown as Paul Heyman opened the show to share what's next for Roman Reigns after he regained the Ula Fala on Raw. Heyman took the time to acknowledge the only tribal chief before calling out Cody Rhodes and stated that Reigns now wants his undisputed WWE Championship back. Heyman shared that for the first time in over 5 years, Roman Reigns will enter the Men's Royal Rumble match, making possible a third WrestleMania title match between Rhodes and Reigns. Reigns is no stranger to the 30-man match as he won the contest in 2015 and was the final person eliminated in 2014, 2017, 2018, and 2020. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out as Reigns will also be on the final Raw before the Royal Rumble and is rumored to be the cover star of WWE 2K25. Reigns joins CM Punk and John Cena as the only declared entrants in the men's match, as the 30-man contest certainly won't be lacking in star power on February 1st. Kevin Owens appeared in the crowd to berate Rhodes not just for teaming with Roman Reigns, but for shaking hands with The Rock during this week's Raw debut on Netflix. Owens' comments echo those of countless fans who felt the segment on Raw was the wrong call, and it's interesting that WWE are bringing attention to this. Rhodes made a beeline for Owens and the pair brawled, leaving Heyman alone in the ring, though it wouldn't be long before Tonga and Jacob Fatu arrived. Jimmy Uso would make the save for Heyman, but when he found himself overwhelmed, Rhodes would return and, in a potential tease, stood face-to-face with Jacob Fatu. This segment set up SmackDown's main event, and backstage, Fatu was angry about all that had transpired, and LA Knight took the opportunity to push him out of the arena and lock the door. Knight didn't want any interference in his US title match against Shinsuke Nakamura, and this opening segment covered plenty of key points for SmackDown and the Royal Rumble. The biggest point covered was Roman Reigns' involvement in the Men's Rumble match and the possibility that he will have a WWE Championship match this April in Allegiant Stadium. Well, what do you think? Is Roman Reigns going to win his second Royal Rumble match, or will someone else stand tall in Indianapolis next month? Share your predictions in the comments. In October of last year, AJ Styles returned to SmackDown after a lengthy absence, but he unfortunately suffered a Lisfranc injury in a match against Carmelo Hayes. That setback brought their match to an abrupt end, and this week a fan on Twitter asked Styles how he was doing and if there were any updates on a return to the ring. Unfortunately, Styles' brutally honest response was that this injury is challenging and gave no indication as to when fans could expect him to return again. Fans have been flooding Styles' online profile with messages of support as they clearly miss the former world champion, but he shouldn't rush into a return until he's fully healed. According to the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons, Styles may be out for quite some time, as overall recovery can take from 6 months to a year for the worst Lisfranc injuries. Are you missing AJ Styles in the ring? What do you think he should do when he's eventually back on WWE programming again? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. One name fans can see each week on WWE TV is Gunther, who has walked into WrestleMania twice as champion and plans on doing so a third time this year. In 2023 and 2024, Gunther walked in with the Intercontinental title, but aims to head to Las Vegas as World Heavyweight Champion, where he could be facing an unlikely opponent. According to a new report from PW Insider Elite, WWE's team are pitching Gunther versus Logan Paul, who recently moved to the Raw roster at WrestleMania 41. This has certainly come as a surprise to fans, with many predicting that Goldberg's retirement match would be against Gunther at this April's two-night event. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that they've never had confirmation that Goldberg versus Gunther would be at WrestleMania, though the Austrian is planned to be Goldberg's last opponent. So far, WWE has not hinted at Gunther versus Logan Paul on TV, but with WrestleMania season approaching, it's just a matter of time before fans learn if this is indeed the plan. What do you think about Gunther versus the Maverick, though? Is Paul the right opponent, or is there someone else who should challenge for the World Heavyweight title? Let us know below. This week, Vince McMahon settled a case with the SEC, resulting in the former WWE chairman paying over $1.7 million due to undisclosed payment agreements tied to alleged assault. Shortly after news of this settlement, McMahon put out a rare statement sharing that the case was closed and explained his side of what had happened. He wrote, "The case is closed. Today ends nearly 3 years of investigation by different governmental agencies. There has been a great deal of speculation about what exactly the government was investigating and what the outcome would be. As today's resolution shows, much of that speculation was misguided and misleading. In the end, there was never anything more to this than minor accounting errors with regard to some personal payments that I made several years ago while I was CEO of WWE. I'm thrilled that I can now put all this behind me." That post did not sit well with everyone, as people criticized McMahon for his case closed comment, believing that it was misleading people about his legal matters. After all, this $1.7 million settlement is only part of the non-payment case and not any potential criminal matters, and Twitter's community notes was quick to hit McMahon with this disclaimer. Vince McMahon settled with the SEC without admitting or denying its findings. This was exclusively about the hush money charges. Janel Grant's civil suit will go forward and use these findings as evidence, according to her attorney. The Twitter community notes system is designed to provide helpful and important context for posts and relies on input from a diverse group who share content. Clearly, enough people felt that McMahon was being dishonest with his comment that the case was closed, and this statement caught the attention of Janel Grant's attorney, who said, "During his time leading WWE, Vince McMahon acted as if rules did not apply to him, and now we have confirmation that he repeatedly broke the law to cover up his horrifying behavior, including human trafficking. The SEC's charges prove that the NDA Vince McMahon coerced Ms. Grant into signing violates the law, and therefore her case must be heard in court. While prosecutors for the Southern District of New York continue their criminal investigation, we look forward to bringing forward new evidence in our civil case about the sexual exploitation Ms. Grant endured at WWE by Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis." This payment to the SEC may have marked the end of one aspect of McMahon's legal trouble, but there's still others, including the Grant lawsuit, as well as the Ring Boy lawsuit. Time will tell how these cases turn out for McMahon, but there's still plenty for the former WWE champion to deal with, despite what his statement this week would have you believe. Back to SmackDown, and in a rematch from Survivor Series, Shinsuke Nakamura and LA Knight battled for the US title, except this time it was Nakamura who was defending. When announcing Knight, Lillian Garcia added the "yeah" to the end of the megastar's name in a fun twist, and we'll have to see if that's a permanent fixture moving forward. These two have grown chemistry thanks to the handful of matches they've had in the past, and Nakamura's versatility pushed Knight outside of his usual comfort zone. Neither man held back in this war, with Knight even slamming Nakamura's face into the ring post, and when Knight hit the BFT, it seemed he'd become a two-time champion. That was until the new Bloodlines, Tonga and Jacob Fatu intervened, revenge for what Knight had done earlier in the show. Jimmy Uso and Cody Rhodes got involved to bring the fight to the heels and run them off, and a challenge was made for a tag team match in the main event that was accepted. This messy finish means Knight didn't win the title, and while this match was a lot of fun, the ending kept the contest from being what it could have been. Fans who paid attention to this match may have noticed something different about Shinsuke Nakamura, as the face paint he donned seemed to be larger than what we'd seen before. When WWE introduced this version of the King of Strong Style, the face paint wasn't as pronounced, but has clearly grown in size as of late. Of course, we can't rule out this being a coincidence, but with WWE's known love of giving teases and Easter eggs, time will tell if this plays a role in Nakamura's character. Fans tuning into this week's SmackDown will have noticed that the show sounded different as Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore are calling the action for the Blue brand going forward. This move was expected as Michael Cole and Pat McAfee moved to Raw for the Netflix debut, while Corey Graves was part of this week's NXT, where he'll remain for the immediate future. With the Royal Rumble now just 3 weeks away, attention is turning to one of WWE's most exciting nights of the year, and especially the Men's Royal Rumble match. This year's match will be John Cena's last, and while he aims to become a 17-time world champion at WrestleMania 41, Drew McIntyre is ready to spoil the WWE icon's plans. On the Babyfaces podcast, McIntyre warned that Cena should hope that they don't end up in the ring together, or it'll end very badly for the 16-time WWE World Champion. McIntyre recalled his history of breaking WrestleMania dreams, pointing out that CM Punk also dreamed of a world title win until Drew tore his tricep off the bone. Drew suggested that if they share the ring, he'll ask Cena what muscle he wants tearing or bone he wants breaking, as McIntyre plans on obliging any request. Drew didn't officially declare for the men's match, but his comments certainly suggest he'll be involved in the 30-man match that he won back in 2020. Are you interested in Cena versus McIntyre either in the Royal Rumble or potentially in one-on-one encounter? Sound off down in the comments section. Back to SmackDown as Chelsea Green was in Portland to put the Women's US title on the line against Mi Chin in a rematch from Saturday night's main event. Green arrived with Piper Niven, who dressed as a member of the Secret Service, albeit with a flashy blazer, and the challenger was the aggressor right from the gate. It had been Mi Chin who Green had beaten to win the title, and the former Mia Yim was ready to right that wrong, but Piper Niven at ringside was able to give the champ the advantage. Both the challenger and champion looked good, but this didn't live up to their previous match, and the finish saw Green roll through Mi Chin's crossbody to get the win. After the match, Mi Chin tried to pull the champ back into the ring, only to be attacked by Niven, and though Green retained, you could tell that Mi Chin isn't done with the champ. In Nick Aldis' office, the Motor City Machine Guns were annoyed about what happened last week, as Pretty Deadly's brawl with Los Garza ended their tag title match against DIY. A-Town Down Under arrived with Grayson Waller suggesting the Guns move to Raw in the transfer window, and Aldis made a match between the two teams. Aldis also warned Waller to never interrupt him again, as the cocky Australian's brash personality was clearly at odds with the SmackDown GM. Despite this lack of prep time, Sabin and Shelley proved why they are considered one of the best tag teams in the world and got the win after a skull and bones on Theory. David versus Goliath matches are always fun, but they're rare when it comes to tag teams, so this was a fun dynamic as the smaller guns took on Theory and Grayson Waller. The match had a quick pace and plenty of good double team spots, and despite being the veterans, the guns played effective underdogs who got in short bursts of offense. These four worked well together and put on an entertaining match, and while it was the Guns who won, it was hard to say that anybody looked bad coming out of this match. It was later confirmed that the Guns will face Los Garza on next week's SmackDown, and this match could prove crucial in determining the next challengers for the WWE Tag Team titles. Still angry that Pretty Deadly falsely accused them of taking out the Street Profits a few weeks back, Los Garza brought the fight to the Brits on this week's SmackDown. As Los Garza gained the advantage, Kit Wilson called for DIY to come out and help them, believing DIY owed them one after Pretty Deadly didn't reveal that they attacked the Profits. Despite Wilson's plans, neither Johnny Gargano nor Tommaso Ciampa came out to help, and after Santos Escobar at ringside took Elton Prince out, it was Berto and Angel who got the win. This match was short and relatively uneventful, but it's never a bad thing to see Los Garza get a win, as they are a great tag team with unlimited potential who hopefully enter the title picture soon. Backstage, DIY met with Pretty Deadly and, despite not helping in their match, promised that Prince and Wilson will get a shot at the tag team titles eventually. DIY clearly has no interest in helping Pretty Deadly out, but are willing to string the duo along, and after DIY left, Apollo Crews emerged to say Pretty Deadly would be dumb to believe them. This is the latest time Crews has randomly showed up in a storyline, and we have to wonder if WWE plans on doing anything more with him outside of these brief backstage cameos. New WWE Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton celebrated her win in the ring, but she was interrupted by Nia Jax, who went as far as to call Tiffany a ungrateful little Nia said it's time up on Tiffy time before Bayley emerged, followed by Bianca Belair and Naomi, and after a brawl, Nick Aldis made a four-way #1 contenders match. This segment highlighted that WWE hasn't turned Tiffany into a babyface, which is a smart call, as tweaking the popular character too much would not sit well with the fans. Instead, Tiffany is doing whatever's best for her, which makes sense, and will allow her to be able to seamlessly fit into feuds with both faces and heels. The Fatal 4-Way was given plenty of time, with a notable spot seeing Bianca Belair accidentally whip Naomi whilst the EST was trying to deal with the interference Candice LeRae. The pair didn't have any kind of making up spot on the show, and with Naomi being the prime suspect of many to be Jade Cargill's attacker, this was an interesting development. The finish of the match saw Bayley get the win to earn the title shot, and with Naomi being the prime suspect of many to be Jade Cargill's attacker, this was an interesting development. The finish of the match saw Bayley get the win to earn the first title shot against Stratton, an interesting call given that Bayley was spotted at this week's Raw speaking with Adam Pearce. That segment on Monday left fans speculating that Bayley could be moving to Raw, but if that happens, Bayley will have a shot at the women's title before that occurs. There was a botch after this match, as in a backstage interview with Byron Saxton, Bayley spoke about seizing opportunities, which Stratton had done by cashing in Money in the Bank. Bayley, however, said that Stratton had cashed in last night when she meant to say last week, and though she later did say last week, this error didn't go unnoticed by fans. Stratton versus Bayley will take place on next week's SmackDown, and we'll have to see if Tiffy time continues or if Bayley brings a swift end to her title reign. Carmelo Hayes tried to punk out Jimmy Uso, but it didn't go well, as Jimmy claimed that with the number of bricks Melo has been collecting as of late, he could build a house. Before the main event, it was announced that Solo Sikoa would be returning to SmackDown on next week's show, and it'll be interesting to see what he has to say after losing the Ula Fala. Backstage, Jacob Fatu cut a promo, and the most we've heard from him since he arrived in WWE, and one has to wonder if he will still be the voice of the new Bloodline going forward. There was no "I love you" Solo during this promo, which was certainly out of character for him, though he did do his "I love you" Solo pose during the match, but with a twist. Fatu got the "I love you" out before Jimmy Uso elbowed him, preventing him from saying Solo, and another interesting spot, teasing that Fatu and Sikoa may no longer be on the same page. During the main event, Kevin Owens emerged and he and Cody Rhodes brawled to the back, meaning Jimmy Uso was left all alone, and the new Bloodline swiftly got the win. The action wasn't over there though, as Owens and Rhodes fought to a production area and Rhodes threw himself and Owens through two tables. WWE is doing a good job in keeping this feud hot, which is no easy feat given that it started off red hot at Bad Blood with Owens' post-show assault on his former friend. The task for WWE has been to maintain the excitement in Rhodes vs. Owens, and for the most part, WWE has done exactly that as we draw nearer to their ladder match on February 1st. On this week's NXT, Giulia captured the NXT Women's title, ending the reign of Roxanne Perez and ushering in a new era for the women's division of the Silver brand. Ever since it was reported that Giulia had signed with WWE, a big win like this was expected, and in May 2024, Fightful reported that she'd be the female face of the brand. Speaking to Tokyo Sports this week, Giulia explained how she's taking her role in WWE seriously as she's working hard to improve her English and improve her promo skills. She said, "I take English lessons twice a week, but that's not enough. I study at home and increase my opportunities to learn in my daily life until I can understand it. In Japan, we have always placed great importance on language, so I think that microphone appeal is important as a professional wrestler. That's why I don't think for a second that I am happy the way I am now. English is an absolute necessary skill, so I will continue to study it. One day, I'd like to be able to do proper promos in English." Giulia already cut some promos in English, but it's not her native language, and improving her English speaking skills will certainly allow her to connect to a wider audience. Giulia's commitment to improving will certainly be seen favorably by those in WWE, as big things appear to be in her future now that she's reached the top of NXT's women's division. Fans outside the US this week saw Raw, NXT, and Smackdown all arrive on Netflix, but there is a major difference between the Red brand and the other two shows. During this week's Raw, fans tuning in got to see the action continue during commercials with picture-in-picture service, but that isn't the case for NXT or SmackDown. Instead, fans who tuned into NXT and SmackDown were treated to messages of "We'll be right back" alongside slow-motion footage of several WWE superstars. This has left many feeling disappointed as they don't get to see portions of the show they got to see with Raw, and ironically, WWE isn't the only promotion with this problem. With AEW now on Max, fans of the All Elite promotion have been complaining about the lack of picture-in-picture, a service they feel enhances the viewing experience. But what do you think of this? Should SmackDown and NXT on Netflix show the action that takes place during commercials? Let us know in the comments section down below. In AEW, Daniel Garcia is riding high as the reigning TNT champion, but this week, he made a surprise appearance for West Coast Pro. At the promotion's Only the Strong Survivor event, Garcia teamed with Titus Alexander and Starboy Charlie to defeat Judas Icarus, Travis Williams, and Alan Angels. Not only did Garcia's team get the win, but the trio engaged in Garcia's signature dance at what was Garcia's first appearance for West Coast Pro since September 2023. Garcia earned a huge pop at the show, and it goes to show that you never know for sure who you may see when you attend an independent event. More from Vince McMahon now, as the public image of the former WWE chairman has taken a beating in recent years due to the many controversies in his name. WWE has done all it can to distance themselves from McMahon, including avoiding showing McMahon during historic footage shared during this week's Raw debut on Netflix. With all that said, McMahon still has some allies, as this week, Turki Al-Sheikh, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority in Saudi Arabia, shared his love for the ex-WWE leader. On Twitter, Turki shared an image of McMahon with 3 heart emojis, showing he still has a lot of love and esteem for the billionaire despite all that's happened. This post comes at an interesting time, as it was reported this week that the Saudis aim to launch their own boxing league, which will be overseen by WWE's parent company TKO. McMahon is also planning moves of his own, as he intends to set up his own production company after his legal matters are dealt with. Could Turki and McMahon be working again one day? It seems nothing is impossible, and we'll continue to follow the moves of both men very closely. And we're ending today with next year's Royal Rumble, as it has been confirmed that the 2026 Royal Rumble will be heading to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for the first time ever. While the country held the greatest Royal Rumble in 2018, that show was of little consequence, while this 2026 show will of course have a major role in shaping the card for WrestleMania 42. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's reported that the Saudis were willing to pay $55 million to secure a major WWE PLE such as WrestleMania, SummerSlam, or the Royal Rumble. While WrestleMania is, of course, the biggest event there, the backlash of WWE's biggest show going to Saudi Arabia would be considerable, as this partnership remains controversial. Ultimately, money talks, and with Saudi Arabia's big pockets, the 2026 Royal Rumble may not be the last major premium live event to be held in the country.